Okay. So, I'm talking to one of my friends right now, and I'm explaining something to him that he doesn't need to know, but that my family does. So, I'm going to continue explaining it to him because he legitimately wanted to know. And, I mean, he doesn't need to know because, I mean, he doesn't get freaked out like y'all do and start accusing me of being high and stuff. He knows if I'm high or not because I have no problem telling him. But, anyway. So, when I dissociate, certain days, I'm like a 2-year-old. And I said this to him already, so I'm going to repeat it. He's got a 2-year-old. So, um, they can say no, but pretty much before they can say anything else because they learn words as the world around them teaches them those words. So that's why it's funny to hear a kid's first word, and everybody loves talking about a kid's first word when it happens, and they don't realize the significance of it because usually it's something that they hear often, that they understand, and so you're sitting there like, yay, we've reached a new level of understanding for this child. And my son's was shit because he dropped something and he went shit. Oh, so he understood that, yay, and mommy drops enough stuff that yay. So it's just funny to me that I'm like, oh, and I was like, oh, I gotta start watching my language. But it doesn't matter if I had said poop, even though that's a hard word to say, he would have said poo or whatever he could to mimic that because he had that moment. He had already grabbed it in his head, and then when the moment came, it came out naturally. Sometimes I don't know if they force it. Usually you can kind of see in their head what they're doing if they're trying, like, I'm gonna play and see if I can get that word out. But anyway, that's why mama, nouns are usually the first lots of words that they get. Actually, I need to look that up and see if I'm right on that. Anyway, I'm trained in all this, plus it's just funny to me coming to a new understanding of it right in this moment. So, when I am dissociated, I have 5 different levels that I go through. One of them is my 2-year-old self, where I have a really hard time communicating. The problem is that as a 33-year-old woman, I almost said 34, 33-year-old woman, I have lots of words. I know what I'm feeling, so I try to go through all my words, figuring it out, but I can't. And so I talk. Fine. Come back though, because I do the part that's for you is for you. So I go round and round and round and round and round and round in circles in my head, trying to find the way to say what I'm feeling so that the people around me will know that I'm feeling that way. But the problem is, so when a child is young, they cry. They just cry. And you try to get them to speak and they start crying louder, and we know that they're throwing a tantrum, and that is what I'm doing. And I hate that that's what I'm doing. But it's a tantrum because I'm feeling some kind of way that I can't express. Sometimes there are no words for it. And I've lost my children, and there are no words for the pain that that causes. There are no words. There is nothing that makes it better. There is nothing to fix it. There is no way to get them back right now. And in my unfortunate education from God, that's not part of my life right now. So whether I would want them or not, it's pointless to discuss it anymore. And I can say that right now in this moment and be done with it. The problem is there are so many people that start to hear my story as I talk, just in conversation, or because I felt the need to share. Well, actually, usually I don't talk about them on purpose. It's people asking me questions. I start sharing, and I need to learn to just say, we don't need to talk about it. It's something that's really, that causes me a lot of problems when I do talk about it. So I'm just not going to. Just suffice it to say, it is unfair because every time I try to discuss it, it makes me go insane. Legit, literally. And there are concerns that I have about my children that are founded. But, and by the way, right now with the COVID and with kids being out of school, it makes me panic even more. But I've got to work on keeping myself in a good mental space so that if somebody does discover that there's abuse going on over there, which I'm sure there is, and I mean that in legit, literal abuse way, not physical, but psychological, that really fucks with your head. But kids are resilient. They'll get through it. The type of abuse that they're experiencing, if you do experience it as a child, you get away from it. You move on to better things. And I know this because I grew up in a psychologically abusive situation, and I did. And my kids are of me, so I know that they'll be okay. So, I was explaining to him because I was reading this, and it's so sad, and now I know why people get so sad and want to help me out. Because I was trying to express it. I am so selfish, but I want to be there to help Keith. Now I know what I meant. I'm selfish because everybody thinks I'm being selfish by using drugs, but I'm not trying to do drugs and party all the time. I want to be there to help Keith, and maybe that is selfish, but I'm not being selfish by using the drugs. I'm being selfish in that I sometimes relapse because I get so emotional about that part. So it's a catch-22. Then I wrote, Landon is like me. Well, Landon is like, me, and I worry how hard this is on him. I think I just put the comma in the wrong place there, because sometimes I'll be sitting there using grammatical things that are funny to me, but most people don't get it. So even sending this to somebody is hard to do. I'm the only one that can translate for myself in these moments. Anyway, I worry the kids will always hate me. I worry they'll do what my parents did because Keith is telling them not to love me. So I meant that because my parents, my dad said he doesn't love me anymore, and I also was worried in that moment that they're going to start trying to get me arrested or committed all the time. So I was worried in that moment that once my parents are dead and gone, and I do finally get my children back, that then I'm going to have to worry about them trying to send me to jail or into a psych ward, when all I want to do is love them. But I fear that they're going to become evil little people towards me because of what my husband has done in their, trying to fuck with their heads. And that's a legitimate concern, actually. I'm right there with you, 2-year-old Robin. I always wanted kids so that I could feel loved. I'm editing myself as I say this out loud. And I see that my parents loved me, but I was strong-willed and arrogant and mean. And I wrote that because I was worried that was why they didn't love me, is that I was so strong-willed, arrogant, and mean as a child that eventually they didn't love me anymore. This video is going on long enough. This is the writing that I did, and I'm gonna erase it. I'm gonna email it to myself, but I'm writing in all caps because I'm panicked and freaked out when I was writing all this. And my dad, instead of understanding what I was going through, he made it a lot worse that day, because he just thought I was high. My mom just thought I was high. By the way, guys, the reason that I came over one day to show you what I was like when I was high, I wasn't trying to be cocky about it, even though I sounded cocky in the moment, because I was like laughing and stuff because I was high, and it was funny to me. So, I wanted you to see the difference between me being high and me being in a mental health crisis.